Vugar, welcome on Crypto Weekly.
Thank you for having me, and let's talk about the challenges.
Here we go. Let's start about this. Dive right in about the topic of challenges and opportunities. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen with crypto exchanges in the year ahead. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing crypto exchanges as we head into 2025?
I think the major challenge is the security and vulnerabilities because of the technology advances super fast, and we have seen so many exchanges being either hacked or being victim of phishing attacks, even deep fakes, and many malicious players trying to bypass the KYC process using the deepfake generated faces and actions. Therefore, it is one of the biggest challenges. And I think it's not only about the crypto exchanges, the entire financial ecosystem, whether you are a neobank, everyone will be trying to figure a way how to make sure that we can catch that malicious activities before we get, hit by. An alternative as a Bitget, we have a huge protection fund to make sure that we can give our users that safety and security. Therefore, we have 6,500 Bitcoins ready, available. If something goes wrong, we can refund the users. Luckily, and hopefully it won't happen.
So, Vugar, you mentioned something that is really important, and especially in today's landscape where everybody is waiting President-elect Donald Trump to get into the White House and start a new regulatory framework. So to what extent do you think that regulations will play a role in securing and adding a privacy layer to Bitcoin exchanges?
I think before we even talk about the legislation, crypto run by the crypto Twitter, and we have seen a power of a single tweet, how much it can do miracles, either bring the market to the all green or the vice versa. Therefore, I think Trump's narrative will impact the market much harder and bigger than the actual legislation. And similarly, we saw what happened with ETFs, right? Entire market was more excited about ETF related news, but the day ETFs approved, actually market little bit crashed down and then had a correction. Therefore, in my opinion, Trump and his whole entourage of Elon Musk and other rich people, the entire narrative will drive the market to a better place rather than focusing on legislation, because legislation takes a lot of time to pass through, all the Senate and the entire chambers of the powerhouse that the politics works, but narrative will definitely make miracles.
So let's talk about making miracles with a narrative. Obviously, a big challenge for crypto exchanges has been really client acquisition, and various different exchanges have tried different approaches. What do you think would be key for crypto exchanges when it comes to enhancing client acquisition and being able to have these new clients that come on the platform?
I think there's already like a foolproof method of using key opinion leaders, influencer marketing, and affiliate systems that almost every exchange already deployed. Therefore, there isn't much innovation in there. But in my opinion, 2025 and onward will be the companies that could embrace AI technology and content creation through AI will definitely be an important step to optimize and the cost also, because it's a very expensive model to acquire users. Secondly, it's about the educating the end user and building the loyalty, because for a user today, opening their mobile phone and swiping from one exchange to another is just single click. Therefore, how you build that loyalty among the clients. And lastly, it's about the offering at the end of the day, because as a user, if you are an exchange, you have two purposes, right? Either you want to do that long-term investment, or you are there for a quick gains, and it all at the end comes to what kind of projects are listed in the exchange and how we can compete in between each other. But definitely also there are benefits that who's offering zero fees and better transaction volumes and all the liquidity kind of topics. Therefore, acquisition is expensive, but it's not the only part. I think keeping the users are more important than acquiring them, because sometimes we see in an exchange that you will have a very small amount of high value clients who will be bringing most of the transaction volumes. Therefore, sometimes rather than focusing to the number of acquired users, you also focus on the quality of the users and what kind of need they have and how you can cater to them.
So let's talk about country adoption. We've talked many times on the show, Henry, about retail and institutional adoption, but what about government's adoption, especially that El Salvador was capturing headlines globally with a lot of news in regards to that. So to what extent do you think that government's adoption and is a very main factor in the sentiment towards crypto?
I always whenever I talk to the legislators, they always think that, we are the crypto heads, degens, we hate policies, legislation, we want to be undercover. But as an exchange, it's totally opposite. We love legal clarity, and whenever there's a clarity, we are the first ones running around with our application because we want to serve our clients the best way possible. But I think El Salvador, as a small nation, they have been like a true crypto nation, right? They've been accepting Bitcoin as a payment. They're using Bitcoin as a reserve. They even like turning their excess energy to the Bitcoin. Therefore, being there is more of a cultural moment than economical value, but definitely it is our anchor in Latin America. We are planning to set up more offices and become more compliant and serve more clients in Latin America. Because for me, I travel a lot to Brazil and Argentina, and I love how adoption is there because it was forced by all the economical situation and political situation, but there are also a lot of developers. If I'm not mistaken, like almost 30-40% of all Ethereum development happen in Latin America. Therefore, it's a very interesting market to be at, and that's our key reason we got our Bitcoin license, and we are also looking for the full digital assets license.
Interesting. Yeah, El Salvador, a lot of exciting things. You mentioned about the developer community. You know, I saw, for example, Bitget recently, you guys invested in Tron as well, and you guys actually bought the tokens and you're investing in the ecosystem. What do you think, from your perspective as an exchange COO, what is the strategy there of acquiring these tokens and getting involved in these layer ones directly?
I always joke about it because back in 2017, when I came to this industry, the narrative was that it is disruptive, everyone gonna come to Web3. But fast forward, we realized that people don't wanna come to us, we have to go to people. And what we saw Ton did with Telegram's community of 1 billion people, both the project like a Catizens and Dogs and all the other exciting developments happened there. They actually managed to crack the code and onboard these Web2 users to Web3 seamlessly. And therefore, as an investment from the investment point, we saw how it quickly boosted our user acquisition. It was part of our user acquisition strategy mainly. And in a country like Nigeria, we became like a top downloaded crypto app thanks to, because we got an access to list dogs and cats like as the inaugural first exchange. Therefore, I think when we look at the different ecosystems and builders, it's about how exciting the projects are, how many developments happen in there, and what is the community are doing and how we can onboard them to the ecosystem first. Because if you look at what Ton did with all these tap-to-play games, they actually educated the user unconsciously to open a wallet and go explore an exchange. These things were done incentivized without actually going and telling people, write down your 12 seed phrases and never lose this paper kind of. It's a very different approach and it worked.
So one last question, Vugar. What advice would you give a Bitcoin or a crypto investor for 2025?
Oh, it's a very interesting question. Like from my perspective, I always say I think Bitcoin is so scarce, it's becoming more scarce than gold itself. Therefore, always buying and dollar cost averaging is the best strategy and to be on a safe side. Definitely, you have your top 20 large market cap tokens there worth exploring. Everyone is talking about alt season. I'm sure we are very close to that alt season. Definitely, I need to give shout out to BGB token, Bitget on native token. We saw almost like a 5x growth, even bigger growth than Bitcoin itself do it. And of course, it's a very skeptical topic, but recently I took my words back and I tapped into like a meme coin ecosystem. Therefore, I believe every investor should invest 2%, 1%, 3% of their portfolio just to play around to see, because there are so many opportunities of 20, 30, 40x. It reminds me of the a previous bull runs where we could do this kind of raises. Therefore, I think meme cycle or meme super cycle is also a possibility.
There we go. So that was Vugar Zade from Vugar Usi from CEO of Bitget. Wise words for 2025 coming on. Thank you very much, Vugar, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Vugar.
Are your children prepared for the future of money? Order Decoding Crypto with Henry and Hodler, the #1 new release kids book on Amazon.